He's seeking to stop himself from being affected by conflict. Now, the problem with that is the more you avoid conflict, the more likely you are to experience conflict, purely because you're avoiding it. It just makes it get worse. The longer you avoid doing something, the procrastination, the way you try to deal with the actual fact that it's going to happen, when it happens, it's not nice. Because it's all pent up, and it's all of those emotions and thoughts and the anxiety and the rumination that something bad is actually going to happen. And it does, in the case of M.A.M.A. Hello and welcome to the tortured superhero, Incredible Hulk. So, you would have seen that I would have explained about the Incredible Hulk, a bit of his background and why he becomes so angry. So now I'm going to explain how anger affects us as human beings and how it is so difficult for us to deal with it, particularly when we don't know how to manage our emotions anyway. So my name's Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist and I practice at the Priory and privately, and I'm on a mission to make therapy accessible and change the world one thought at a time. I have a keen interest on men's mental health because men are not taught really how to express their emotions more effectively to enable them to develop emotionally. So we teach our men to bottle it all up and then it all explodes, which is why I'm focusing on the Incredible Hulk, the most explosive of all the superheroes.
The creature is wanted for a murder.
Is he even a superhero? It could be argued, because he's seen as an abomination, because he's a fluke of nature and he's like a force that you just cannot be reckoned with. So the problem with the Hulk is he cannot be controlled, and he actually doesn't care once he's gone green. Once he said those famous lines, "You will not like me when I am angry."
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
There's no turning back. He cannot stop. There is no difference between the Hulk and sheer utter chaos. The two are the same thing. So, what happens just before he turns into the Hulk? What's David Banner? What's Bruce Banner? What's he doing? What is happening? So, we understand that the series TV program called The Incredible Hulk, his name was David, and in the comic, his name was Bruce. So I'll refer to him as Banner. So throughout Banner's existence, as he travels from place to place, which is what he does in the series, because he's constantly avoiding conflict. Now, this is something that we do as humans. We avoid conflict because we don't know how it's going to pan out. In fact, we avoid it because we are in fear that if we are in a conflict situation, we'll lose control. And if we lose control, things are going to be absolutely terrible. We're either going to be a bad person, the other person's going to be a bad person, and we just can't stand it. And that's what happens to Banner. So he's in a state of aiming not to lose control. He's seeking to stop himself from being affected by conflict. Now, the problem with that is the more you avoid conflict, the more likely you are to experience conflict, purely because you're avoiding it. It just makes it get worse. The longer you avoid doing something, the procrastination, the way you try to deal with the actual fact that it's going to happen, when it happens, it's not nice. Because it's all pent up, and it's all of those emotions and thoughts and the anxiety and the rumination that something bad is actually going to happen. And it does, in the case of Banner. So once he has avoided conflict for as long as he can, the pent-up aggression, the rage, and he starts feeling from a position of the first time he was affected. He starts feeling from a position where he can't stop himself because he's so now in his old anger. He's so traumatized by what happened to him previously in his life that now, that's it. He can no longer control it. And this is what happens when we avoid. So when we're avoiding, that's anxiety. So Banner is going through a point of view of constantly avoiding, he's anxious. I have a keen interest on men's mental health, and my aim is to create a platform called M.A.M.A, which represents men and mental health awareness. The aim is that we take a nurturing, understanding and supportive approach to understanding men and their emotions and their mental health. Because if we don't, the figures which are already set, 76% of suicides are men, which I think needs to be lowered. David Banner attempted suicide more than once in his attempt to avoid conflict. This is something men go through when they are deciding that they no longer wish to live, they no longer want to survive in this world. Often they feel a lot of rage, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety about the future. And the only option that they can come up with is if they take matters drastically into their own hands. It's a way of avoiding the conflict. It's a way of creating a solution, which actually is not a solution. When you avoid something, it doesn't help you solve it. In fact, it makes it get worse. So as a psychotherapist, as a talking therapist, I support the move forward to talk about how you feel and recognize why you are triggered into the unhealthy negative emotion that you are experiencing. Anger being the one that the Hulk feels, it's all about the fact that he's unhealthily angry. So when we are unhealthily angry, what we do is we lash out outwards. So we displace our anger, we cause the world and anybody that's near us pain, we shout, we scream, we can't hear, can't be reasonable, we can't speak. This is what the Hulk experiences. So once he has turned green, he cannot hear. In fact, the TV series, the person who played the Hulk, he's Lou, he was deaf. And you actually got to experience from watching that he couldn't hear. And speaking wasn't something that he could do well, so it made really good sense to the emotion that he was portraying, because that is how anger comes across. All you can do is roar. All the Hulk does is roar, and all he does is shout and scream and jump around and smash. That's what we do when we're angry, and that is what is unhealthy, and that can be dealt with, not avoided. Because anger is so big and loud and destructive, that's unhealthy, but it's not completely unhealthy if you have healthy anger. Healthy anger allows you to explain how you feel. It allows you to release the emotions, and it allows you to talk and discuss. And you can hear, and you can have an interaction. You can talk. And that's the difference. So, are you the Hulk who avoids conflict, but once it happens, that's it, it's an off and it's a blast? Or can you talk when you're angry? Are you unreasonable? Are you unapproachable? Are you difficult? Do you smash things? Can you hear? That's the important thing. Can you listen to reason? The Hulk can't listen to reason, and that's the default of what happened when he was hit by the gamma rays, but what it's done is it's intensified the anger within him. Now, he also had a split personality, which is known as a DID. He had dissociative identity disorder, and I will be talking about that in the next video on the tortured superhero, so we can recognize how men with DID can often come across. If you are a man suffering with anger and you find that you become very explosive and you can't stop it, because if you notice, whenever the Hulk does get angry, because he's tried so hard to avoid conflict in every possible way that he can possibly imagine, once it's happened, all he does is escape. So he's living in fight, flight, freeze. He goes straight to fight, then once he's calmed down, he flees, because he can't actually do anything. There's nothing more that he can do. He feels really bad. He goes into a depression. He becomes hurt. He feels ashamed. He feels guilty. And he ruminates on all of those things, which then get pushed down with all the other angry feelings. So when we experience unhealthy anger, it's not because we're experiencing anger on that situation alone. We're actually bringing all of the things that made us angry. And that's what makes unhealthy anger unhealthy. We're not just angry about that situation. We've brought all of our anger from the past into that situation. And that is why when we get unhealthily angry, we cannot deal with the situation. When you get healthy angry, you can deal with the situation as it is, standalone, without any of the baggage from the past. Unfortunately, the Hulk can't do that. So each time his Hulk becomes really strong, which is why he becomes an abomination. Because no bullets can touch him, nothing can stop him. He can't feel. Have you ever been so angry that you can do something and you've been so surprised at how you managed your way to deal with something? You was like, how did I not feel that? I didn't even feel the cold, and I didn't even feel that it was raining, and I walked out with no jacket on in the middle of January. I was so angry because you weren't there. You were all the way back in the past of your anger with all of the other things, everything all rolled into one, like one big, massive fireball of destruction. And that is dangerous. So if you are experiencing that, if you know somebody that is, go to my website, www.desireeshaw.com, and you will find the questionnaires. And on the questionnaires, I've got 5 questionnaires there, and they'll calculate your scores for you. And I would say do the anger questionnaire. Now I'm going to put the description in the description box. I'm going to put the link so you can just hit on it and you can take the test. I am on a mission to make therapy accessible and change the world one thought at a time. What brought the Hulk to the Hulk are all of his other feelings. His anger comes out, is triggered. Once we are triggered, what we believe about the event is manifested in how our emotions and our behavior. If Banner did not see and perceive that he was under threat, it was linked to past hurts, that he was in any way having a rule broken or he was breaking a rule, there's a possibility that he may not have to go into unhealthy anger, and he could have gone into healthy anger. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Desiree Shaw and I'm a psychotherapist, and I also podcast on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So listen out and look out for more tortured superhero. We are looking at the Incredible Hulk. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Oh wow, who timed that camera? I feel like it's spying on me. Oh my God, how did it just turn up like that? It's the 3rd camera. It's the 3rd magic camera, isn't it? It's like the camera that you just don't quite know, like, what the hell?
It's there, but it's not there.
So, is it on?
Mm-hmm.
I feel...
Well, let us get ready. CP9. Alright, can you do 2 claps?
But that really causes problems for my finger.